Welcome back, one and all, and thank you for joining me today. As always, I am Daniel Blake, and in case you are new to the channel or somehow haven't noticed yet, I am a massive fan of role-playing games, specifically D&D. I honestly don't think there's any other experience quite like getting all of your friends and family together, sitting them down at a table, and setting them on a fantasy journey of your choice, where they can live out their wildest fantasies, and you get to craft a storyline that hopefully everybody enjoys. Now, with that said, I've been a DM for well over 10 years at this point, but that certainly doesn't mean that I am immune to issues and slip-ups within the game. I mean, for example, my second campaign that I ran, during the very first session, I accidentally almost TPK'd my entire party with two direwolves that may have been a little stronger than I intended. My point in bringing this up is that there is a lot of learning curves in D&D, both as a DM and a player, and you would be surprised how many things seem common sense that are completely misconstrued and misunderstood altogether, and I can't think of a bigger example of that than the morality alignments. Now, if you're part of the D&D fandom, or even just toyed with the idea of creating a character in a TTRPG, you've probably come across this graphic. Now, this is the morality alignment chart, which seems really easy to read on the surface, but I'm here to tell you that I have seen veterans of this franchise completely misunderstand altogether what it means. So I'm here to help break it down for you, because it is a very helpful tool, but you gotta know how to read it properly. So the morality alignment chart has two primary axes, good to evil and lawful to chaotic. Good to evil is simple enough to understand, as it's pretty easy to tell a positive action from a negative one. In short, feeding the hungry villagers is good, ignoring their plights is neutral, and slaughtering the villagers and burning down the village is bad. Now, where things get a little tricky is the lawful to chaotic row, and I honestly believe it's simply due to a misunderstanding of the word lawful. The problem arises because the word lawful in the modern day is typically believed to mean to follow a rule of law set by a governmental body. However, the actual definition is conforming to, permitted by, or recognized by law or rules. Now, in RPGs, we follow the true definition of lawful, which may coincide with external forces, but the actual set of code and beliefs comes from within, not from the outside. So if lawful means to follow a code to a T, then chaotic is the polar opposite of that. It simply means that your actions you're taking are not driven by any sort of deeper meaning, and that's frankly all there is to it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going out and being a crazy person all the time, but what it does mean is your motivations have zero grounding whatsoever other than what pops into your head in the moment. For example, let's use the idea of stealing a loaf of bread. The lawful alignment may permit the action, but only within a guideline of when it would be appropriate to steal. The neutral alignment would be the same as lawful most of the time, barring circumstances that would justify breaking from their creed. The chaotic alignment would simply commit theft without any internal strife. With the basis of our morality alignment chart now set, let's jump into each of the 9 different combinations that you could choose to play as. Now, I do have one final note to make before we get into it, and that is, regardless of whatever the handbook, the D&D fandom, or whatever other external influences you might have when creating a character, remember that you can play any class and race as any morality alignment, and frankly, anyone that tells you otherwise should go pound sand, because that is the nature of an RPG. It is your character, play them how you want. Now, with that out of the way, let's get on into it here. Starting with lawful good, these characters are often the goody two-shoes of your party. Because of their affinity for following the rules and their overall desire to make the world a better place, they often will be a benevolent force in your universe. There's a lot of good examples of this, specifically when it comes to superheroes, such as Batman from DC or Spider-Man from Marvel. The neutral good alignment is arguably the most beneficial of the entirety of the morality alignment chart. They are individuals that will still follow a creed for the most part, but are willing to break away from it if it is for the greater good of those around them. A great example of this would be a pacifist that is willing to do violence to protect an innocent. Some great examples of this are Luke Skywalker from the Star Wars series or Izuku Midoriya from My Hero Academia. So chaotic good is such an odd alignment, I will be honest with you, because these are individuals that are still a bright spot on the world, but really only when the mood strikes. Oftentimes they'll just kind of go on things at a whim. I mean, all their actions are still beneficial, but it's really sporadic and spread out, and again, only when they feel like it. Some pretty funny examples of this are SpongeBob from SpongeBob SquarePants and Harry from Harry Potter. Lawful neutral is arguably one of the funnest alignments to play as in D&D in my personal opinion. These individuals have a very strong sense of law and order, and it doesn't really matter what happens to the world around them as long as it meets that creed. Some great examples of this are Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek The Next Generation and Lord Commander Gilliman from Warhammer 40k. So I need to be completely honest with you all, true neutral is one of my least favorite alignments for a couple major reasons. First off, I feel like that's what the majority of humans in the real world are. Falls under true neutral. I mean, we're all very malleable, we're very flexible, it depends on what the circumstances, there's a lot of gray area, which is really important for being a well-rounded person in the real world. But when it comes to tabletop, I don't know, it's frankly kind of boring and too grounded in reality for me personally. Now, if you craft a really good character with this alignment, that's fabulous. You know what? Play them out. I'm glad to hear that you enjoy this alignment, but my personal take, just my opinion, I'm not a big fan of true neutral. The second reason for that is because it feels like it's almost a crutch for a lot of players to prevent them from really developing a very defined and polarized character, which can be really fun in the world around them to play with. Again, you have the chance to act on more extremes in D&D or other TTRPGs, so why not do it? Try to take that leap, try to do something a little bit different. With that being said, there has been some really fun true neutral characters that have been put out there, and a couple examples of those are Flynn Rider from Tangled and Miguel Antulio from The Road to El Dorado. So chaotic neutral is easily the most bizarre morality you could choose. These characters are the definition of sociopathic and have zero basis for their actions that they take, and those actions may be beneficial or detrimental to those around them depending as to the mood that they're in. One moment they could be saving a cat from a tree, the next they might be burning down an orphanage. You just never know what you're gonna get. I would say that if you do choose this alignment, just be very careful to make sure they're at least a little bit reined in, or frankly, you can easily destroy a campaign with this type of morality. Some great examples of this, though, in other media would be Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean or Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. Ah, lawful evil, the classic alignment for your traditional big baddie. You know, these characters are really awesome to have in basically any campaign because they have a vile goal, they know how to achieve it, and they have plans for it afterwards. Really, you can't go wrong with including one of these guys as an NPC in a campaign. And hey, if you want to take an evil route with one of your characters that's set on like conquering the world or something like that, great player character choice too. Some really great examples of this that I can think of would be like the Templar Order from the Assassin's Creed series or Gortash from Baldur's Gate 3. So neutral evil is where the vast majority of the ne'er-do-wells in your world will probably end up. These individuals certainly are not great for your world, and they do have some semblance of law and order, but it's always overridden by personal desire for gain. There's some great examples of this across a bunch of media, including Ganondorf from the Legend of Zelda series and Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. Last, and I would argue least, we have chaotic evil. Now, while these characters can be fun to have as NPCs, I would highly suggest you never play one as a player character, and here is why. You all have heard of the murder hobo mentality, the players that run around just killing NPCs because it's fun. Well, that is basically chaotic evil to a T. It's not enjoyable for anybody else trying to play the game seriously, and frankly, everyone I've ever seen play chaotic evil is doing it to be a troll and kind of ruin the experience for everyone else. Can be funny to watch from the outside, but I will let you know as a DM who has had people that have played chaotic evil before, it is a nightmare to deal with and arguably not worth having that person at all in your D&D group. I am that serious about how strongly I feel about it. I usually let my characters be whatever they want to be. Like I said, I think that is a hugely important part of playing an RPG, is allowing your players to have a lot of versatility in what they want to do. But I will say that one player can ruin the experience for the others, and you gotta think about them as well. So if somebody comes up to you and says, I'm thinking about playing a chaotic evil character, make sure that they have it well fleshed out, because all these characters do is run around aimlessly causing destruction and mayhem. That is quite literally what the chaotic evil character is, and that is it. So with that being said, the obvious poster child for this that everybody knows is the Joker from DC. But going to a little more primal version of what chaotic evil is, I'll point to the Balrog as well from Lord of the Rings as a more, bestial version of what chaotic evil could be. Well, folks, with now all 9 of our morality alignments fully explained, that will bring us to the end of this video. If you're still watching, thank you so much for sticking with me through to this point. And next time character creation comes up, I sincerely hope this video helps guide you into some smart creation. If you would be so kind to leave a like and subscribe, that would be fabulous. It doesn't cost you a dang thing, and it does the world for this guy right here. So that would be really cool. And if you are feeling extra generous, I do have a Patreon in my bio too. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have just the most wonderful day. Deuces.